Hello people! Thanks for joining me. I'm Scott, and this is the Slash ES-335 1963 reissue, one of 50 made. I'm going to be doing a setup and preserving the autograph. Slash came down here to Nashville to put on a concert and sign a few of these guitars for guys or buyers that bought these from the Gibson Custom Shop down at the Gibson Garage. And I hear it was quite a cool event. He played a lot of blues music. So let's get started with this. Stick around. ABR1 bridge with nylon saddles. Custom made plaque. Bigsby B7. Custom buckers with El Nico 2 magnets. I had a guitar with El Nico 2 magnets. It was a Flying V. It came stock, but they typically don't use that magnet in the stock custom bucker, which is a humbucker. Yeah, it's Murphy Lab, so it's got the little checking lines. There's a few of them on the back of the headstock. We'll try to avoid filling them in with that lacquer. But people that watch these videos and try this kind of thing at home, first thing you want to do is identify exactly what type of finish is on your particular guitar that you're trying to do a finish repair on. In this case, we know that Gibson uses nitro, and we know the Murphy Lab nitro is a little different than the standard production. It's definitely a thinner, and they don't really buff off the wax or the compounds. You can see it's kind of smudgy looking, and that's because they kind of don't clean it off or something. So I'm going to need to clean that area on the back of the headstock a little bit first before we go spraying it. Let's look at the label. This is the 44th one made. There were only 50 of them made. Here's a look at the back. I was telling my customer it'd be good to make a video of this guitar just for insurance purposes. You know, if anything ever were to happen to his guitar, he took out an insurance policy, and you know, if anything were to happen, he can just show this video to the insurance people, and they'll probably it'll be an easy payout if the underwriter needs to justify payout. Okay, I've got it all masked off. I'm gonna head on down to the spray window and I'll be right back. Stick around. When I get back up, we'll talk about all the precautions I took and how to safely remove any of the masking materials and do the rest of the deal. Don't touch that dial. I pretty much mostly used this low-tack tape on any area that touched the lacquer, and I used a little bit of regular masking tape to just piece the side with the face. But it doesn't hurt to just warm it up with a hairdryer real quick while peeling off this garden variety masking tape. We'll just do it real carefully. This is new construction, so it's not likely to peel off either way. The lacquer, that is. It usually happens on antique guitars when you tape them. And that piece is the low tack right there. I'll do this to the other side, and then this stuff should come off real easy. We'll have a look at the my spray setup out in the garage, my little spray window. There's the Mohawk stringed instrument lacquer there, that's what I use. There's also, you can't see it, but kind of an intake window on the other side of the garage. The Lasco fan in the exhaust window. same as it did when we started, like there's been no touch-up at all. I've showed you in other videos how the black light makes touch-ups look like almost black. And in this case it just looks natural. The original finish hasn't been tampered with at all. I mean, it's just has the new sort of finish over the top of it. So this stretch wrap stuff allows for there to be no tape anywhere around the body at all. And then this, you can't really harm the fretboard with tape. And back here, there's where the stretch wrap ended, there's no like fine line of overspray because I kind of only sprayed here over this area. There's kind of a mist of overspray here that'll buff out later. So we'll hang it on the wall for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and we'll buff it out, put it back together. Stand by. Don't go anywhere. So it's got that little bit of overspray texture right here, so I'm going to just sand that with the 3000 grit Trizact pad. And then after this, we'll go over it with some polishing compound and just try to blend that all smooth. Get rid of that powdery overspray feel. And we'll wipe up the mineral spirits. And this is just a little bit of the Meguiar's Ultimate Compound. These are the strings we're going with for the setup. And this might be a good video for those Bigsby owners. First time Bigsby owners want to figure out how to string a guitar with a Bigsby V7. So I come around and put a little bend in the end of the string. I grab the wound part of the string down here and continue that little loop idea there. Then we have to come under this bar and onto that post. Now I got to keep the string taut or it could unravel on the other end. I like to get the post at about 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock. Bring it through. And then I kind of make an S shape and I bend it up like that. So the string goes up, straight up towards the ceiling. And then holding it taut still until I get it wrapped around a few times, and then it kind of holds itself there. Perfect. I'll repeat that for every string. So putting a little bend in the string and coming through this way, that's the way that's easiest for me. But do whatever's easiest for you if you find something that's easier. I'm not saying this is the only way to do a Bigsby, but this is the way I like to. Now, the next thing I do before I get the strings all the way up to tension is just get them right over top of the ball. Oop. Yeah, I move the strings. I align each string so that it's not crooked so that each one of them is in line, just like that. Now I can get them up to tension, and now we'll get them up to tension. Because there's a spring in the Bigsby, I probably have to do this a few times. The spring is compressing as I go. Anyways, once I get it up to tension, I'll stretch them out and check the truss rod. And then I'll let it hang for a few days and check the truss rod again. This guitar originally had 10 through 46 strings. And I just changed them to 9 through 46. Now I'm going to check the neck relief. This is a 5/1000th of an inch feeler gauge. Goes through no problem. But a 10/1000th doesn't go, so we're probably in the range of 8/1000ths, 7 or 8, which is probably okay. But now I checked on the bass side, I want to check both sides, and that 10/10 does go through, which is a little too much relief for most people. So maybe I'll give that truss rod a tighten. Before I give it a tighten, I loosen these two strings to get them out of the way. And then remember it's righty-tighty, so you want to go from about 10 o'clock to maybe 11 o'clock. That's a good enough adjustment. Okay, I just loosened the strings again. I double checked and I still had about 10/1000ths on the bass side. So I'm going to go from 11 o'clock to about 12 o'clock. That should have done the difference, I think. Now, I'm back up to tension. I've got actually 8/1000ths of an inch. Here's an 8/10 feeler gauge. A second ago it felt like it was going, but let's try a 7. Yeah, 7 goes through on this side, just in this area. But on the other side, on the treble side, I can only get a 3/10. 4/10 doesn't go through. So 7 and 3, there's a difference. Doesn't mean the neck is twisted, just there's a difference. I have about 5/64ths, and he wanted it at about 4/64ths. So I'm going to lower the thumb wheels under the bridge. Alright, so I'm going to jack this up and turn these righty-tighty to bring it down. Same thing on both sides. Now recheck it. You can get this at StewMac. It's called a jack, bridge jack. Okay, now that I've got the action exactly where he likes it, I'm gonna hang it back up on the rack for a couple days to recheck the relief and the action. Make sure everything's staying steady or holding steady. We'll get the truss rod cover back on, even if just for temporary reasons, so I don't lose anything. Keep track of all these little screws and pieces amidst a busy shop that has a lot of other instruments floating around. I'll get this last screw in and we'll hang her up to dry for a few. Aye. There we go. We'll come and recheck her in a few days. 1987, I'll never forget it. It was the year I graduated, and it was the summer of '87 this came out. And I had already heard about these guys because I had a friend who moved out there to Southern California to become a rock star, which didn't happen. But he saw these guys at the Whiskey A Go Go, and he called and he told me all about them. And the very next year, I saw him in concert on Aerosmith's Permanent Vacation tour. And these guys were at the top of their game at the time, man. I was really blown away. Another band that was at the gig who opened up the show was The Cult, which, man, that also came out in '87. And it was 1988. But these guys were actually more popular than Guns N' Roses at the time. I mean, at one time they were. But this show, it was the first time I saw Slash in person. And it was the first time I ever saw a guitar player with a wireless rig. We were standing there. It was this outdoor gig in Michigan. It was in Mears, Michigan, and that's right about here. Anyways, we're sitting there out in the crowd, standing there, and we noticed there's like a cloud of dust coming up from the ground over here to the right, to the left. And there's Slash standing there, out there in the crowd with like all these kids around him. And he's playing the solo to Paradise City, and we're like, what the hell's he doing out here? Anyways, then he takes off, followed by all those kids in a cloud of dust, back to the stage. Anyways, it's a funny story. The biggest band in the world. Notice how curled up the pickguard is? That must just be the way that the original example was, that they modeled this after. Well, it's been a few days and the setup holds up just fine. It's still exactly where I left it. It's got the nylon nut also, I might add, which is the best for when you're using the tremolo. Let's see how it sounds. Now, because nitro lacquer burns right into the coat before, there's really no witness line around here where I finished up. But I'll say, because it's got so many solvents in it that to prevent, there's many problems that could happen when you're spraying that stuff. It could fisheye, which is like a cratered look. If it's not clean, there could be dust underneath it. It could have a pimpled look to it. And I wanted to start off with real light mist coats, you know, to prevent it from smudging and bleeding, you know, the Sharpie bleeding out into because of the solvents. And then you got to do it in real low humidity too, otherwise you'll have blushing, which is like a milky, smoky look that the lacquer can take on. Plus there's all the overspray, so there's all that masking and stuff that I did. But